If you can tell that I can't see anything, you would be correct, because I can't wear my glasses because of the glare of the light, and I have no contacts in today, so we are flying blind. Hello out there, it is time. We are back. I'm ready to talk about Halloween Horror Nights again. For those of you that don't know me, I am Carson, and I love all things horror. I love horror books, I love horror movies and shows, I love horror games, but above all things, I love Halloween Horror Nights at Universal Studios Orlando. This also marks the very first time in a long time that I have sat down and talked to a camera about anything horror related. In fact, the last video I put up was just some vlog footage from my family's trip to the Keys. I really have not been up to much rambling or talking about anything these days. That was kind of a conscious choice. I did need a bit of a break from a lot of things. I was just kind of enjoying my summer off. I needed to take a little time off during the summer. I do teach, so summer is kind of my rest and recharge time. You know, I did work summer camp part-time, but to be completely honest, we've been coming off of a really rough school year, so it was pretty essential for me to just take a step back from a lot of things, and that included just rambling to myself in my office about horror things that I like. But I'm feeling ready to talk about it now, especially in the wake of every single house from Horror Nights finally being announced. Like, yes, I'm one of those people that lurks online and has a rough idea of what's coming during speculation season, but I don't like to talk about it until everything has been officially released. And now we can say, yes, everything has been released. I get to do one of my favorite things, which is make my anticipation list, as a lot of people like to do. I'm almost running out of note space on both my phone and my computer, because I do have every anticipation list that I've ever made, and I believe I counted, I think this is year 15 that I'm going into of this event, and that's actually insane to me to think that I've been doing this for 15 years and keeping a running list of all of my favorite houses and comparing them to what I think is going to be my favorite going in. I like to say that I don't have a Horror Nights problem. I can stop anytime I want, which won't be anytime soon. As you can see, it's a very loving relationship that I have with this event. But a lot has happened in 15 years. These last couple years at Horror Nights have been really kind of transformative for me. As I get older, it's definitely a different experience than it was when me and my friends were kind of running around the park as crazy teenagers with endless amounts of energy, and we could stay and close out the park and wake up the next day and drive all the way back home. Like, I can't imagine doing that now. I get tired even just thinking about that. But over the years, my relationship with the event has changed in mostly positive ways. But I must say the last couple years have been kind of a transition into loving the event again. Not to get too dark and too bleak or to overshare, but a couple years ago, I was in a horrific car accident on the way home from Halloween Horror Nights with my mom. We got run over by a sheriff. Yeah, I'm allowed to talk about it now. I wish I was kidding. Oh, perfectly timed sirens out the window after I literally just said that. They're coming for me, y'all. No, anyway, it really was such a horrible, traumatic, scary thing. And for a while, I was kind of hesitant to even want to go back to the event again. But I did the next year. It's been a couple years now, coming up on 3 years since the accident. And really, I am kind of finding myself falling back into that groove of really feeling comfortable, feeling safe at the event, because I love this. I love coming to this. Enough about me though. I'd like to turn our attention to the real main event here. I have compiled my list. This one was kind of easy for me to do. Sometimes some years are a little bit more difficult than others. I'm going to be starting with number 10, my least anticipated house, and counting down all the way to number 1, my most anticipated. I have to throw my little disclaimer out here too. My opinion is not wrong. Your opinion is not wrong. No one's opinion is wrong here. This is very subjective. In fact, I really like to see people that have wildly different lists than I do, because I really like to think that there's something for everyone at Horror Nights. Maybe you're more of a fan of the comedic houses. Maybe you're really into the ones with the really awesome scenic design. Maybe you really do want to be scared out of your mind and you like the absolute scariest houses at the event. Whatever it is you're looking for, you're probably going to find it in at least one of these houses. All right, let's get into the list. So at number 10, I had to put Terrifier. This is just one of those things that's not for me. I haven't watched any of the movies. I don't care to. This is something that I've spoken about before. Like, yeah, I'll watch some things that are pretty gory, but gore like that doesn't really do much for me. That's not really what I'm looking for in any horror movie or show or anything like that. So I kind of already knew that this was going to have to go at the bottom of my list. This isn't one that I really care to watch before I go. Sometimes I do like to watch the movies or shows that are being represented, but this just is not for me. And can I make a prediction here? I've run this theory by a couple of people, and everyone seems to think that maybe I'm wrong and they would be like, they could get in trouble for doing this. I've seen where they've said online that this is going to be a very wet house and to bring a poncho, and that you can choose a wet ending or a dry ending for this house. I would not put it past this little horrible clown here to flip-flop them and have like the labeled dry side be the wet side, but everyone's like, no, I don't think they'd actually do that. But I feel like that would be in keeping with the spirit of this. I don't know. I could be just pulling stuff out of thin air. I don't know him. I don't know this clown. That sounds so ridiculous. I need to make a shirt. I don't know this clown, so I can wear it into the house. But I don't know. It is what it is. I could like it. We'll see. As we move on to number 9, those of you that might have watched or seen some of my anticipation lists before might not be surprised to find another IP or intellectual property house here. I tend to congregate some of these lower on the list unless it's a property I'm really excited for. But it's just kind of a pattern with me to not always be the most excited for these. So I have put Five Nights at Freddy's in the 9th spot. I'm familiar with the concept of the game. I get it. I think it seems neat for what it is. I have never played it. I've never watched any playthroughs or anything like that. All I know is that this has a rabid fan base. I know a lot of people are super excited for this one. And I don't mean rabid in like a negative way necessarily, but I know this is just a super popular franchise, and a lot of people have had this on their wish list for Horror Nights, and I love that for them. I love it when someone's like dream property or dream house gets to happen. This just isn't that for me. I still think it could be really cool. I've really enjoyed some of the video game houses that they've had in the past. And I think about the fact that like I've never played Silent Hill, and that's one of my top 10 houses of all time. And then I think about Resident Evil, and that's one of my bottom houses of all time. So we kind of run the gamut here. We can kind of like, I can't really anticipate where this one is actually going to fall, but it's not one that I'm super hyped for. Number 8, I'm super predictable. So I'm going to put the Jason Universe house here. I want to say something. I'm afraid to say this because they're going to come and take my horror fan card away from me if I say it. I don't even know if I want to. I don't know. Maybe I'll keep this to myself so I can keep my horror credentials here. This has potential, but the reason why I put this so low is that I feel like it's kind of been done. Not that I've been to an event where Jason has been represented. I just feel like this isn't anything new. And I think that's why I'm not super into this, but I allow for the possibility that this could be awesome. Again, like I always feel bad. I always feel like I have to justify why I put the ones towards the bottom at the bottom. But this is just my personal feelings. It's just not anything that I felt really struck by or excited by. In fact, this was one of the announcements that I just kind of saw and was like, oh, okay. Don't really have a lot to say about this one. And at number 7, the house that I have had on my list, my tentative list based on speculation. I usually kind of have a rough idea, but this was the one that I just called wrestling because I knew that there was going to be some sort of wrestling house represented at the event. In fact, probably one of the ones that my friends and I have been discussing the most as like, what do you think this is going to be? What do you think this is going to be like? Honestly, getting kind of hyped and excited. Not that I know a thing about wrestling other than, you know, the wrestlers that have broken into the mainstream as actors, and that's pretty cool. But I don't know anything about the horrors of Wyatt Six, the Wyatt Six. I kept wanting to call it Wyatt Sticks. Listen, apparently it's some characters that this person has created, this kind of like family dynamic. It kind of reminds me a little bit of the Triplets of Terror from last year kind of vibes. I could be way off. I really haven't done a lot of research on this one. I'm kind of hoping that maybe someone can give me a crash course as to what to expect, but it seems neat. I guess I was kind of expecting to go in and just see wrestlers wrestling. No, I didn't actually expect to see that. I don't know what I thought this house was going to be, but I was really curious to find out. And now I know. Well, now I don't know. I guess I'm a little more confused than I was to begin with. All right, number 6, Grave of Flesh. Probably my most, like, what this year. And I don't know, maybe other people had a better idea of what this was actually going to be. I really didn't. I don't remember seeing many rumblings about anything of this concept. So the day this one was announced, I'm like, this is a surprise. Like, what is this gonna be? And immediately I start picturing like when they did Poltergeist and you transitioned from the pool kind of into the underground where all of the bodies that were in the pool were popping out, that kind of like dirt hallway. I'm picturing something kind of like that. The concept seems really dark. It was kind of surprising to me to hear that's like, oh, well, you're gonna die and then you're gonna be pursued in the afterlife. I'm like, okay, cool, I'm here for it. But I'm just struck more by the fact that this one was kind of like a total surprise to me. So I am intrigued to see what this one is like, but definitely not my most anticipated of the original concepts. Number 5, I have Dolls Let's Play Dead. Oh my goodness. I am already anticipating that this one is going to be extremely creepy. I think back to Dollhouse of the Damned that appeared a while back at the event, and if this house is anything like that, then this is going to be kind of messed up and kind of terrifying. But the difference here is it seems to be that we're shrunk down to the size of toys, which that might be even more terrifying now that I think about it. I really like just a creepy toy concept. I know that's something that we do see a lot in a lot of horror media, but I think we see it a lot for a reason, because it is effective, because it is really creepy to think about toys, these things that are fun and comforting, as being something that is anything but the sort. So I'm very interested to see the messed up ways in which we might be treated inside this house. At number 4, we have the final IP, the one that escaped being stuck at the bottom of my list, Fallout. I am so excited for this house. I have not played this game before. My husband has, so he's super excited to see what this one is like as well. But even as someone that did not play the game, I really did enjoy the show. And kind of all it took for him to convince me to watch it was saying that Walton Goggins was in it. And I love Walton Goggins. And then you had Ben, the guy who played Ben Linus from Lost, popped up for an episode. So I was already sold. I love this show. I really think there's so much potential here. Again, another video game one like Five Nights at Freddy's, but I'm more familiar with what to expect for this one, having seen the show. So I'm really, really hyped. This is my most anticipated IP this year, and I just think this one's going to be a lot of fun. Number 3, I'm going to put Galkin. I might not be pronouncing that correctly, but whatever way that it is pronounced, I am extremely hyped for this one. This is going to be our cold house. I love it when we get a nice cold house at Halloween Horror Nights, and I really love when we get some sort of lore, folk tales, something from a different culture or a different country. There's so much potential for things like that when we take these concepts of these creatures or these legends and we bring them to life. I think this is going to be a really big hit. I see this one being a fan favorite this year. I'm going to go ahead and call it. I feel fairly confident in saying that this might be my husband's favorite. I think this is something that's going to be super intriguing to him. I think this is going to be super intriguing to him, either this or Fallout, but I know they're going to have that AC cranked in here, and I can't wait to see this creature. Although the promo art kind of reminded me of the big bad from Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. The name of that creature escapes me right now, but I did notice some kind of similarity, so I'm wondering if there's going to be kind of like shades of that. I'm not saying that one copied the other or anything. I just think that it might feel kind of familiar in that way. There was also a wolf in the logo art, which gives me pause as someone that is terrified of wolves and werewolves, but I'm doing better. I think exposure therapy via Halloween Horror Nights is really helping. So I think we could see some kind of forest environments, maybe walking in and out of like a village or something like that. We've had houses like that too, where it's kind of walking in and out of a village or things like that. So I think I'm really excited to see the scenic aspect of this one as well. We've made it to number 2, and I have put El Artista, a Spanish haunting. Oh my word, am I ever ready to see this house. I did hear the highlights from the panel that mentioned that this house is going to have more than one facade. Sold already. I think this is going to be a beautiful yet terrifying house. I am a bit of an art nerd, something I don't know if I've ever mentioned on here, but I really love art and I love like visiting a gallery and looking at different eras of art. So the concept of this being art come to life trying to harm the artist, I think that's brilliant. We haven't really seen anything, at least I haven't at the event like this before. It's kind of like shades of the museum from last year, but this is something like I would not have even imagined this as a concept. So the second I heard it, I was immediately sold. Like, this sounds amazing. This sounds gorgeous. Again, drawing from another culture. I love when we do that. And I really can't wait to see all the creative ways that the art is represented. Like, I'm sure we'll get some statues, but the scares that you could do with like a painting come to life, I can't even really like put it into words. I'm just so excited to see exactly how this one plays out. And I think a lot of people share that sentiment. I know that there was a lot of noise online when this one got announced and a lot of people were really excited. And me too. Like, I love the original concept houses, and this was one of the ones that just immediately I was like, yes, on board. Sometimes you hear them and you're like, this is brilliant, and that was this one for me. So that leaves my number 1 most anticipated house, and that is going to be Hatchet and Chains Demon Bounty Hunters. I am so excited for this because we saw a little bit of this in Slaughter Cinema 2 last year. And, you know, I just knew going through that house that at least one of the rooms, one of the movies from that haunted house last year was going to come to life. And I'm really glad that this is at least the first one we're getting. They could do more at some point in time. Because, okay, full disclosure, I'm excited for this one because there's shades of like the Dark Tower series from Stephen King in here. Fully just like the gunslinger costumes and the fact that the room smelled like roses. Listen, I am a tower junkie. I'm obsessed with the Dark Tower series. I'm still meaning to like do a whole deep dive on that, but can't like rationally discuss this or calmly discuss it yet. But something about that last year, I'm like, oh man, if they turn this into a full house, I'm going to be insufferable about it. So just an official apology in advance in case I go off the deep end and get a little too into this house. But moving away from even the Dark Tower of it all, I think this is such a fun concept. I think this one could be camp. I think it could have a little bit of humor to it. And I do love when a house, you know, there's a little cheekiness to it. There's a little bit of playfulness. And I think we could really see that here. So I'm super excited. I'm going to be smiling so big walking through this house. I just already know it. So there you have it. That is my anticipation list for Halloween Horror Nights 34. I am so excited. I'm going to be going for 2 nights this year. And I'm even more excited because for the very first time this year, I am going on an RIP tour. I can't believe I'm even saying that. This has been a dream of mine forever since they started doing these. And a couple of my friends did one last year. I wasn't able to go when they did that one, but they have hyped it up and they've told me that I'm never going to want to go to the event another way ever again. So super excited that I was able to make that happen. I'm doing that first, and then I'm doing a return trip with my parents because they've jumped back on the Horror Nights bandwagon. We're doing Howl-O-Scream too, but they really wanted to make sure we hit Horror Nights again this year. So I'll be having 2 nights at the event. I can't wait. It is officially August right now, which I know that's when the event is going to open, but I have to wait until October for my first time to go. So I can't wait to hear all of the early feedback and see what people are really vibing with. and I just can't wait to get there myself. Until then, I will still be watching my horror movies, reading my horror books. If you want to see what I'm up to, you can find me on Instagram at HHN Carson. I just post kind of random things, like I said, the books that I'm reading, any travel stuff, and I'll be ramping up into the Horror Night stuff before long. I cannot wait. I can't wait to see everybody else's anticipation list too. But in the meantime, hope everybody stays safe and stays spooky.